the Friday before, you know, so you may wanna just say, you know
Laura,
what,
we're on.
department heads.
I'll give you mine for now, and I'll try and get this one.
Okay.
All right, so, all right, we'll open our work session for February 1st, 2018. We'll start by saying the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless you. We're starting our meeting 1 hour early today at 9 a.m. The board has asked, and myself, there's a memorial service for Lyra Wells today, so we'll be attending that. We'll be closing the meeting at 10:30. If we have not finished anything, we will then adjourn and come back and finish afterwards. Larry, I just think there's a lot of feedback. What? Yeah. So for the first item of business, we'll call up Bill Rothar and Cullen Danowski. This was for an RFP that we had put out for our audit report, to do our our annual audit, so.
Actually, this is the first part of it is the presentation of the
Justice Court? Okay, I wasn't sure the order, sorry, I got the order. So they did our Justice Court audit, so they will report off on that first, and then afterwards we will do that. You can come up and join us, thank you. If you just want to introduce yourself for the...
Sure. Yeah, my name's Don Hoffman. I'm a partner with the firm of Cullen & Danowski. We're an accounting and auditing firm based in Port Jefferson Station. We have 6 partners in the firm. 5 of the partners have a substantial part of their business in governmental accounting, school districts, towns, villages, libraries, etc. The firm has done work in Riverhead before for the school district and library, and I think we've done some work for the town in past years. The firm has over 40 professionals. We received a request for proposal to do work related to the Justice Court, to look at the cash activities of the Justice Court. We responded to the RFP with a proposed engagement letter. It was accepted by the board. We met with the audit committee, Jack Oburn, and the audit committee to go over the scope of work. We began our work. The work included interviews with all of the Justice Court staff, the justices themselves, to review the processes and procedures related to cash activities. The cash activities of the court basically fall into 2 categories: receipts for fines, penalties, etc., as well as bail activities. We performed, I supervised the engagement directly along with a staff accountant. We spent quite a bit of time in the Justice Court offices in late summer.
Quarters.
It's a challenging working conditions in the back there, absolutely. We received excellent cooperation, I must say. The staff is very experienced and knowledgeable. That's a good and bad thing. The good thing is that they do understand the ramifications of the job. One of the suggestions we have, or recommendations for consideration, is to come up with written procedures associated with some of the things that they know, right in the top of their heads, right? And also to provide some cross-training to that staff. As we did the work, the key findings were that the funds that were collected by the two justices and their accounts had been remitted to the town on a timely basis, on a regular, routine, monthly basis. We identified no errors in the processing of receipts that were coming into the court's office, and they appear to have adequate procedures to ensure that all the funds received goes into the accounts. And we also looked at a very significant portion of the bail activity account, primarily because the court uses an accounting docket system for keeping the bail activity that does not have the full functionality of a full accounting system, if you will. It's more designed as a docketing system. So we were able to get reports from that we were able to use and verify that the activity that was recorded in the bail account seemed appropriate. The receipt of bail and return of bail to the appropriate people took place. We did identify that the cash account has approximately $23,000 in it, more than the detailed records would show. So there's more cash than the court's docket system says they owe people back for bail that's been put in trust with the court. So that should be investigated at some point in time and resolved. The director of the accounting activities at the Justice Court believes that activity was prior to 2008 through some transition period. We didn't perform any additional work past there. From one perspective is the fact that the cash account is more than the detailed records is a good thing,
It's not a bad thing.
as opposed to the other direction, right?
And
So-
that's been the running amount for the year since 2008?
We didn't go back to 2008, we went back a year or so to see that the amount was consistent.
It was consistent, okay.
Yeah, during the period of our review,
Okay,
right? So with that, we met, as I said, we met with the justices both before we began the work, and then subsequent to issuing a draft report, we met with the audit committee, with the justices again, reviewed the findings. They had an opportunity to review the draft report. They had no comments on it. We anticipate the justices signing a letter of representation to us. It's a pretty straightforward document that basically says they've made us aware of all significant items about the review and the operations, that they believe all liabilities are recorded and all aspects are recorded properly, and we rely on that to some extent because they're in charge of the day-to-day administration. The Justice Court's bank accounts, they're legally responsible for, so they've got, some exposure related to the accounting for it. Our indication is they pay, they're signing the checks, they pay attention to the monthly amounts, and the amounts that are remitted to the town. The funds that come to the town then get remitted to third parties, some of which is the town, and then there's other municipalities which some of those fines go to. That's a town activity we did not review to that level of detail. We were satisfied with the fact that the money went into the town's coffers, the distribution from there, we did not review at all.
okay.
Okay.
And that gets done in our general audit report, that what's remitted to us from the courts into, yeah.
Yes.
So that's covered from there,
That's right.
okay.
Okay. Any questions about the work, the scope of work, and the findings? I was expecting Mr. Oberon to be here today but I guess there may be some timing issues.
Yeah,
with the change in
as I said,
schedule.
Yeah.
Any questions about the work that we did in the?
So do you
Findings.
have the final report for
I have,
us?
at this point, it's still draft because we haven't received the letter of representations back from the justices.
Okay.
I said we expect to receive that,
Okay.
but I do have draft reports that can
Okay,
be
very good.
distributed. And as you'll see, the report itself has some background information. All of the background information is important.
Sorry.
Is important that it, ring true. As I said, the justices reviewed it, and we met subsequent to their review to review, and they had no comments, other than some minor errors, minor editing. I will point out in the report, it mentions is minor discrepancies in the accounting. What that has to do with is funds being deposited in the wrong justices' accounts, depending on who's on duty for that day and who's assigned. That, as a routine basis, gets fixed at the end of the month from a transfer of funds through a check from one justice to the other.
Okay.
So they square up in month end. That's not unusual, and the accounting system provides the detailed information that allows them to do that accurately. And as I said, the funds are then remitted to the town, and each month they remitted the full balances, which is important.
Any questions?
So, just the 23,000 that you said was in
Sure.
the trust for the bail money, you're saying that is consistent since 2008? It's been the same number?
No, it's been consistent for the last year or so.
Okay, so
I
you
did
didn't-
not go back to 2008. It was the director of accounting, Ms. Morrissey's, thinking that it probably went back prior to 2008. That was her comments.
Okay, so you're saying back to 2016?
Well, they only
Well,
audited back,
we-
they only cover the certain audit period, so
Right.
they went back to a certain date in their audit, so that's what they're reporting off on. I don't know in the other audit,
Do
Bill,
you know what that date is
for
that
the
you went back to?
yes,
During the audit period, it was 2016.
yes,
Okay.
So January.
January 1st, yeah. But the other audit reports that we've had from the Justice Courts, the previous audit reports, we also had that discrepancy with the 23,000 in there, or? So it's a new finding in this, okay, but
That's
there's
what
some thought.
Yeah, for purposes of the financial audit, for that trusted agency account, the amount of cash would have equaled, by definition, the amount of liability. So whatever you have in cash, you're saying you owe to somebody.
Right.
So it would have been that number. When we dug in and did the work associated with the bail accounts, we were able to back into the amounts that the detailed records show
Okay,
to support the fact that there was more cash than the detailed records indicate you
Okay.
owe to individual people who are posted bail.
okay.
I actually
Or
lost my
maybe
wallet
she'll
in
have
Justice
to
Court a
get-
couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
How much was in it, Jim? 23,000. Just a little under.
All right, any questions from anybody else? All right, thank you. I know that you're gonna present, about the other one, but you're waiting for one more person, so would you just, or,
Yeah, my partner's going to prevent, actually.
Okay.
He's made the proposal on that, but I'll be here
Okay.
to be with him, and I'll wait for him.
okay, so we will,
They'll be
we will
here shortly.
call you back up.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Great job.
And then, have the resolutions come up yet?
No,
No, we don't have the packet.
I have January
For fiscal
17th.
impact, I'm just wondering if we have,
I have 10 copies actually.
okay, yeah, if we could have that.
Yeah, Julie hasn't voted them over yet. Whatever it is. What I got is a brand new one. It was about this.
Yeah,
I thought it was about this,
what we
what we
No.
were talking about.
No.
Like, what do you?
I just forgot to ask for it to be put on the work session.
Gotcha.
Something with the justice court, but I'll talk to you about it.
But you wanna put it on for today?
No,
Oh, okay,
for the next.
okay.
We are looking for that $24,000.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's December, we can do that as a single audit.
No, I gotta put that on the email, it's the same thing that you have
I'll
open
share
in
with Jim.
January.
We'll share.
This is what, this is all the fiscal impact?
Yeah, this is, Bill will present this. Thank you. All right, this is just something I'm gonna ask Bill to present on. This is a fiscal impact statement. What we're looking to do is the resolutions as they come through, if it does have a fiscal impact to it, there would be a statement completed with that, and that the money would become encumbered once the resolution is accepted. So, do you wanna explain a little bit?
So all it really is any department head that's looking to present a resolution would have to determine, is there a cost to the town? Once they determine there's a cost to the town, they would have to recommend where they're gonna, how that project, that resolution's gonna be funded. Then they would actually fill this out and forward it to me, for me to then see that there is appropriate funds in there. I would then earmark that when it comes to resolution and it's passed, I would encumber it so they can't spend it again.
And this would be
Are we doing
attached
that
to the
now?
resolutions?
No.
So when we get department heads that come to us and say, we need $5,000, or we get recreation that comes and says, we need $13,000, or we need, and we ask you if the money is in the account and they have the money, you're not keeping track of how they're,
In the past, I have been made aware of it, but it hasn't always,
It
you know,
it
there
doesn't
hasn't
always
been
go
anything,
through.
there hasn't
well,
any,
Bill prepares the budget transfer resolutions, for the most part, especially when there's
I think
funds.
it's not when it's a transfer.
But this isn't a
It's like
this isn't a,
it's doing like with BAS, doing the my software, you encumber them with the line,
even if the line is there.
just to move forward with it.
so the board's not wasting their time passing a resolution that we can't fund. That's the whole purpose. In the past, the communication has come through, and at some point, I've been notified of this. But there's been a couple of things, I mean, there's certain things that you know, you have the roof and things like that there may not be funds for, and that's what this is for. But it's also just officially a way for the department head to say, before I can put this through, I have to find money for it, make sure it's funded.
And it's so the board knows because everything can have a line item. You can have a line item that's not a budget transfer, say, well, let's just say the boilers, right? We could pass a resolution that we're gonna do the boilers for $60,000. There's a line item that it could be taken out of for buildings and grounds and engineering, but it doesn't, if we don't encumber that money, if the roof falls down and we pass a resolution to fix the roof, then are the boilers getting done or not getting done, but that money is already encumbered for that, then you'd have to release that, and the board would know that they were making a decision to forego one thing in place of another. So you're not right now, you could have the money in there, and then you pass one resolution, you pass another, you're basically spending the same money if the money hasn't been encumbered for a particular project.
Yeah, I understand that, but I thought that when Bill and Recreation or department heads came to us and said that they needed money for something, that it was always explained to us that the money was in the budget and that was being done internally through the accounting department.
The money can be in the budget, but it doesn't mean that they don't come back a month later and are still tapping
No.
into the same money because if the other project hasn't gone through yet, and then it's
I
unclear.
get it, that's
It's
accounting
but it's-
101.
But it's unclear then to accounting, if the board passes two resolutions for a particular item, it's unclear to the board, to accounting, which one we want.
I get what you're trying to do, but to me, we've been told that, I mean, obviously Bill can't say, okay, I'm gonna prepare or I'm gonna write a check, but I can't write the check because there's no money in the account and, you know, I don't know, to me,
But every
it's
resolution
just.
isn't going to, every resolution that goes through is not being from different departments, is not always going through Bill before it's here.
Well, I've been told differently over the years
Well,
that
this is to firm it up so that we make sure that it does get done.
This encumbers the money right away, instead of leaving it
Right.
out there and somebody else could put in a different
Well,
request.
so I'll give you, for example,
Because
so,
let me just give an example. For the recreation, we had budgeted, I think, $89,000 for one park, and then we needed an additional $13,000 for the EPCAL park. So Ray said, I'm not gonna get this equipment over here, so that's off the table, and now I'm going to allocate that, put that money over to the EPCAL park. And that was all done between you and Ray, and us asking you if the money has been encumbered or if it's there. And we've always gotten surety that the money was
That's
there.
correct, and that's one of the things that we do pay special attention to, because there's trust money that comes in for parks, that we have only a certain balance, and so we make sure, okay, let's allocate this to that project.
Mhm.
One place that it could fall through the cracks would be something, like this roof, like the handlers for the roof or whatever it may be. There's a budget, the current year's budget for repairs and maintenance on all the buildings. So pass a resolution to say, yes, we can do that, and then we go out, we start getting bids to do that or whatever else it may be. And in the meantime, B&G and engineering is still repairing other buildings. If we haven't encumbered that, put that
Right.
money aside, then in essence, we can spend it a second time, or then have to
The way
take
it
that
should
money
be.
from
I
somewhere
mean,
else. So this, what this does is, it puts the focus on the department to make sure they let me know before. A lot of times I'm getting this stuff last minute anyway, but before, so I have time to really make sure we have the funds. Once I confirm that the funds are there, and the board discusses it, after the resolution's passed, I encumber the funds right away, and now it's as if you don't have that money in the account anymore.
So Bill, I'm understanding that you're putting in a proactive step, we're being proactive.
This is so that we can't, we don't get to the point where we approve something, and then it doesn't get paid for, or
Or
even
it doesn't
start
get,
months later, yes.
it doesn't get done. I mean, we have an example the other day with Dayhaven. You know, it was, engineering was going to move through with replacing some of the bathrooms there so that we could open up the adult center, and there was never a line item in it. That money was never encumbered to do the project. And that was a big deal. So that's what the purpose of this is to prevent those kind of things from happening.
Okay, and then, as far as money that's coming in that wasn't expected to come in, how are you going to account for that? And is that going to be done the same way as this, where
You
the
mean
board
revenue
will
coming
have
in?
revenue coming in that we weren't expecting? Because I know that we had a discussion the other day where we had a $60,000 boiler expense, and we have $60,000 that may be coming in from somewhere, so, you know,
So
those.
revenue is revenue. It's not a new stream of revenue. It's just what you're making in your normal activities. You know, some revenue, mortgage tax sometimes will come in higher, the other fees will come in higher. So
Yeah.
that's our expected revenue coming into the town.
Actually, it's budgeted for what the anticipated revenue is, so if anything exceeds that, there should be a separate form for that money that we hadn't anticipated, settling litigation for the year of 2018, but we did settle it, and so the money's coming in, so that the town board knows that there's an extra $250,000 that came in for the settlement of this case that we got, that can offset some of these expenses that hadn't been budgeted for.
Well,
I've never seen any town do
Yeah,
that for
what
revenue.
happens
I've
is-
not seen that.
in order for us to legally spend money, we have to have an appropriation line to spend it out of. So the purpose of this is to make sure we have some way to spend it from.
Yeah.
As far as the revenue side, we do have estimates, and it goes both ways by the end of the year. Some we bring in more, some we bring in less. What we wind up doing is, if we do bring in more money in a particular line, and then we wind up spending the entire budget for that year, then we would increase the estimated revenue for, let's say, $100,000
And then
in increase.
you can do another project that has been put on hold. I mean,
Understood.
going through here, I mean, we have roofs, we have boilers, we have computer system, we have no shortage to spend money here.
Understood.
Of places we could spend, so
But-
if we have increased revenue, then at that point, that would be what Bill would tell us as we're going through the year, because we're constantly checking, are our lines equal for what we've budgeted for? I mean, that we're doing really we do that weekly, daily, depending on what the lines are.
Understood.
So I think
But
that's.
there's also times where money has come in and we've said, well, how are we gonna pay for this? And we've been told, well, we settled this case and we got a check for $250,000, so we're using that money. Whereas we were like, wow, we got $250,000 from that? Okay, great. But it was the first notification to us that that money had actually come into the town. So I think
Well, then
that
that would
just.
be, that would, yeah. right.
We have, I'm sorry, we have, in order to spend that money, we would then use this resolution so that we can spend that money based on all the monies that have come in, so we can increase both the estimated revenues and the appropriation. We don't typically increase the estimated revenues until we need to. So if we are over in our revenues, we don't have to pass a resolution to increase the budget to accept the revenue.
Well, you
So-
wouldn't do a
right.
budget
You'd
adjustment
only
here,
do-
the budget is the budget.
Right,
I
you would
don't want to do a budget adjustment to acknowledge that money came in. I would just like to know when it comes in or
So-
when it doesn't come in, when we're expecting it.
So then
There
that
are
would just be
monthly reports-
reporting,
There are
reporting,
monthly
yeah.
reports in Town Hall Share that's posted every month. You have a receipts and disbursements report that shows you all of that.
Okay, and it's itemized as to where the money came from?
It'll tell you every receipt that came in, yes.
So
Well-
I've seen the planning receipts that have come in, and they're not itemized by which job it was filed under.
So you know
So-
what,
That
if you would
detail
like
we-
something changed, then write something up, we can present it at one of the committee meetings, and then we can see if we can move forward on it. So whatever your object is that you wanna do,
I
we
just
can
want
sit and
itemized income, that's all.
So what happened, go ahead, Jim.
My school of thought is this, now, we're off target. The fiscal impact statement, I think, is just an accounting of what we've been doing anyway. Just
Yes.
puts it in black and white.
Right.
I have no problem with that. The revenue, I don't wanna know when extra money comes in. I'd like to see it at the end of the year when it goes into reserve. And not say, oh boy, we got money, let's go find something to spend it on. But, there's nothing in this proposed hearing or this general provision that accounts for exigent circumstances.
Right.
No, there really should be something in here that, where, all right, it's an emergency, we need to do it now. We don't have time to fill all this out.
Well, it still has to be done, it still would have to be,
Eventually.
but it would, no, not really, because it would still have to be done by resolution, and to have a resolution, we still need to do something, we still need to know we have the money.
Yeah, but
So
sometimes
this
those
is just-
resolutions are done retroactively because it was, a boiler blew up or a generator blew up.
But Bill still would have to know we have the money to do it. And,
Sometimes we don't, but.
but the money that's what I'm saying, the money has to be there to do it. If we don't have the money to do it, I mean, it certainly could maybe come from another account or
Yeah.
something, but that still
We've
gets,
done that.
then we need to know that we're doing that, and the board needs to be aware when you're making the decision to do whatever that we're doing, where that, you've taken the money from the recreation account to do something, to put a roof on. I mean, the board should be aware of what we're doing, and that's what this is. This is to show that
I can appreciate this.
where the
This is a
money
good
is
thing.
coming
I have no
from,
problem with this.
where the money is going to, and how we're spending the money, because each one of these resolutions, you're making a decision on, and each one that has a cost, you should be aware of what that cost is, not only the immediate cost, but, the cost 5 years out, if you're putting in a new program, or you're hiring somebody, or you're deleting something, and changing a vendor or whatever, you should be aware of what the cost associated with that is. So that's really what this is about. It's being done,
No, I
but now
agree with it.
it's being consolidated in one
This is done
portion.
in other towns, right?
It's,
Yes,
it's,
most other towns do this one.
it's creating a paper trail, basically, as to where the
Just
request
making
is coming from, and
each request be
normally that's done
specific
by
about where they're
email,
getting
but
the
I
money.
think it's a good idea to have the form.
We're in agreement.
Okay.
All right, we're
Let's
beating
move
that
on.
horse
Yep.
to death.
Let's
Can we
move on.
So, I'm gonna call Cullen and Danowski, is all it, so I will call them up again?
Uh-oh, what happened now?
No, this is the
now
other
they're doing the
piece.
RFP.
They were
This
waiting
is,
for
we
more
sent
people
out
to
an
come in.
RFP to do the yearly audit, so this is one of those that we post
One of the respondents.
respondents, so we're just to introduce themselves.
You guys had violin cases coming up here right now, they're a little concerned.
How's everybody doing? Good?
Good, how are you?
Actually, it's important to
Hi, how are
some,
you?
may not be as
Oh, do we
important
need
to
one
others,
chair?
but that's why we work.
No, we know him already.
He is. He
Okay.
sat up here already. He just wants to be an observer.
Hi, I'm just gonna have you guys introduce yourselves.
Sure.
Okay, my name is Chris Reno. I'm one of the other partners at Cullen and Danowski.
My name is Bill Otteson. I'm a supervisor with Cullen and Dowson.
And I'm Michael Leone. I'm a principal with the organization.
And the three of us are in this proposal as far as doing the audit for the town. I do have some handouts. This is a brochure that we made up a few years back. Just tells about all the services we provide, you know. And I know Don talked about the firm a little bit already, but we've been around since 1971. We have one office in Port Jefferson Station, and 2/3 of our practice is governmental, as far as audits, external, internal, and accounting. And we do a number of towns, and we prepared a proposal. Does everybody have a copy of the proposal, or do I need to hand some out?
I don't think we have that copy.
Thank you.
Sure. Additional copies? Yeah, have it in the box. You want me to get them afterwards? Don here. Thanks, Don. Okay. So it's this proposal we handed out last time.
Thank you.
So basically, let's go through this real quickly. There's a cover letter, just talking about us, which Don has already mentioned. More or less, we've been around since 1971. We have on page 3, which sets us apart. One of the things our firm has that some of the other firms do not is we have somebody who's exclusively our quality control director, Steve Lenz. He's not assigned to any clients. Basically, he just does all the research, keeps up to date on the new standards, reviews every financial statement that goes out the door. There's a 3-step review process with that. After it's, prepared and everything, it goes through the partner, then it goes through the person that we have that prepares all our in-house financial statements, and it goes to the quality control person, back to me, then it gets issued. But of course, we meet with, the board with it in draft first. So there's 6 partners, which are listed there. 5 out of the 6 do governmental, and with most of our engagements, we assign 2 partners. That's why Don's here as well. So he would be like a support partner. We like to have coverage just in case, there's a meeting, then it's, one person show, oh, I can't make the meeting. We always have somebody else who will do that in place. So then we go on to talk about our experience. Like I said, that's on page 4.
What have you done other local towns, or?
Yes, we actually listed some, after you go through the bios,
Page
starting on
9.
page 6, right. On page 9, we handle East Hampton, Huntington, Southampton, Oyster Bay. And one that's not listed is Shelter Island as well. And in that one, we're actually accountants. So we're the accountants for
For the town.
that town, right. And a couple of these, we do preservation funds, and the other couple, we do full-scale financial statement, justice court audits.
And just so you get a sense, the town of Huntington, we're on our 5th year with them. They have about $190 million budget, so for purposes, I think you're in the 90s. Yeah, so just to give you a sense of that. And then we also did the town of Oyster Bay.
Correct. We've been doing that now for 7 years. And also, it's a larger budget than the town of Riverhead, but similar activities.
And then I just have a question. I know that we have put the bid out. How do you determine the number of hours and for the fee? If you go over, I mean, how is that determined?
Well, it's based on our experience. We've handled towns before, and we do, with our audits, large or small, we still have the same planning and, you know, standards that we have to follow.
It's
You know,
also
obviously-
dictated by the size of the budget, again,
Okay.
keeping that in mind. I mean, there are processes that we have to go through regardless, because we have professional standards that we have to follow. However, the size of your budget might be smaller, which might require less hours, because there's less revenues or receipts type to look at. So, it's definitely dictated by that, but again, there are a certain amount of hours that we have to put in, because we have to follow the professional standards. So that's what the budget is typically based on.
Okay, and once, you know, we're in contract and litigation, we're not gonna go and come back to you and say, oh, you know what, we were wrong, and, you know, so, but we do, plan out, what we're gonna propose, and, once it's agreed upon, there are not any changes,
So, I see how long have you been doing the audits for the town of East Hampton?
East Hampton, that was Tonham,
East Hampton, we do the Community Preservation Fund.
Oh, yeah, because that was the big one, that was the one that they were overdrawn and
Right,
We did it subsequent to that event when they changed auditors.
that's why we were
Change
pulled in.
supervisors.
That's why you were pulled in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
That was part of the change, so.
so you came in after, or you came in unidentified?
We came in after the issues with transfers between different funds,
Right.
in the Community Preservation Fund.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, but for full audits and similar scope for what we're proposing here, we do the town of Huntington and the town of Oyster Bay.
Okay, for the full financial audit?
Full financial.
Full financial
right.
Okay, but, so town of East Hampton, it's the CPF, and I'm impressed that they brought you in, once they had realized that there was a problem and they wanted, somebody else to oversee that budget,
And we also do the preservation fund for Southampton as well.
the CPF. So it's the CPF for East Hampton and Southampton, and then it's the full financial audits for Huntington and Oyster Bay.
Correct.
And what do you do for the Village of Patchogue?
Village Patchogue, we're external auditors, and we also handle the Community Development Agency, which is a component unit.
Okay.
They separate that one out, the community development agency there?
Yeah, it's actually a component unit.
Oh.
I actually worked with Chris Kempton here years ago on some special grants back in 2010.
Okay, for Riverhead.
And then for the town of Huntington, we do like three separate audits. We do the town by itself, and then there's two smaller audits that we do. We have a local development corp and a community development agency as well. So rather, they're a pretty big town, so.
And similar with the town of Oyster Bay, not only do we do the full financial statement audit of the town of Oyster Bay, we also do the town clerk's office audit, as well as the audit of their receiver of taxes.
So those are single item audits that they do?
And you said that was Huntington?
Oyster Bay.
Oyster Bay. And they've not been without their problems also.
They've had some.
Did you guys
Some
come in
difficulties.
after?
We've been working with them through them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long have you been with Oyster Bay Company?
Since
7 years? 7 years, 2009-ish?
Any questions from anybody else?
That's not your first rodeo, I can see that.
That is true.
All right, so I think, we're put the bids out, glad to have you come meet with us. I think we're interviewing one more, and meeting with one more, and then we'll make our decision from there. When do we need to make when's the next audit, is it March?
Yeah, this audit is typically due by the end of the summer, so we're gonna sit next Thursday, so it wouldn't be this board meeting, it would be a second board meeting in February. That'd be it. Make the decision.
All right, thank you very much for coming to present, we appreciate it.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
You
Take
have
care.
to be wise on things, you know that.
Thank you. Good to see you, Chris.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Our CPF, you can do it in 3 hours.
Take care.
Nice meeting
Take
you.
care. Nice meeting you.
Nice to
Nice
meet
meeting
you.
you.
Let's hope for a change. It's important there.
Good.
Yes.
What do they do?
The school, they do Riverhead School District, and then, they've done, Management also. All right, Brad will call you up.
Mark Epperson for the applicant.
I emailed this out, I've got hard copies for you guys to follow along.
Hi,
Hello.
hello.
Thank you, Greg. Here we go.
I am
Do you have smaller copies of the plan, by any chance?
Yes, actually, I got one.
Just,
So this is a little bit different than our typical, this is was a special permit application before the board. But, so we received that back in November, December. We did some review on it. We made I had my comments, Greg did his review and made comments. But then the applicant, through the architect, requested that perhaps they be allowed to start the residential work prior to obtaining the special permit and site plan that are required for this change from a dwelling to a professional office with a residency above. So we kind of jumped the gun bringing it here to see if the board would be open to that. The planning board would also have to be open to that, but also we kind of do need to take a temperature if the town board would be supporting the special permit application anyway, so then I get too far along on this.
Is everybody aware what it is? It's a house in the rural corridor that wants to put an office, which is permissible, on the first floor, and residents on the second floor, but they need a special permit for it. They put the application in. After putting the application in, they realized that they would like to have it be just a residential until they decide to commence the work with the special
From
permit.
what I understand, the owner of the property is just looking to make some money, they're kind of losing money in the meantime while it's not being used, so they want to get a tenant in on the second floor, perform those, so they can get some money coming in until the whole process is done, construction, site plan.
And then they would have to come back and get the special permit at that point.
But
Yeah, go on.
what is it, I'm sorry, what is it currently, there's a certificate of occupancy for a single-family dwelling, correct?
Correct,
So can't they just make a permit to the building department for a
And
renovation?
They have made that, but when we have an application before the planning board or before the town board, there's a provision in there that I'm not supposed to issue a permit I'm not supposed to issue a permit while it's before the board. So we typically, doesn't come up with the special permit very often, but with the planning board, we ask them to put a letter of correspondence in and bring it up for discussion with the board. And if the planning board's open to it, they say, you can go ahead and issue the permit. So with that, I can issue the permit and know that I'm not doing something
That seems overburdening on a homeowner
Well,
who has a house that may or may not, once they figure out what the planning process is.
Well, I had recommended to the applicant, like, why, and maybe you can speak to this, if it's a house right now, why do any work? If you want to rent it out for 6 months or a year or something while you're
Put
going through the
kitchen on
process,
the second floor?
why do the work now?
She potentially might live there herself, because she lives up the island right now, renting up the island, and it's empty right now. So before she gets anybody else in there, or herself potentially, she wanted to get the work done, since it is empty now.
So I think what happened was she changed her plans about putting the office in
She still
sooner
wants
rather.
to do that, but
yeah.
I think she didn't realize how long it could potentially take to get all the permits and get it going, so.
There might be a variance as well that's required for this. We're still working out the
For
site
the
plan.
office, for the office.
So if you had the variance hearing, the town board special permit hearing, the planning board potentially, it could be administrative, but potentially the planning board does a two-step process with public hearing. Even if everything goes smoothly, you're looking at 6 months of just approvals. So, I mean, even though we're trying to move it as speedily along as possible, I think there is a reality to just going through the normal process might take a little while.
So I guess what is the feeling of the board? I'm okay to allow what is permitted there to be under construction until they decide to, go through with the special permit. So it's just how everybody feels about it, whether,
You're talking about just for the residential, yeah?
just for the residential, as of right, they would be able to do that right now without any kind of,
None of the site work.
None of the site work.
Just strictly
Right, it's-
building modification.
right, so it's
Yeah,
whether we would agree to allow them to proceed with that, so.
And I think we should also change the
I-
code, that if it's a
I
permitted
appreciate you
use,
coming in and
that,
sharing with us, because a lot of people would have just done it and
Right.
not shared it with us, so you're
but
above
if
board
you
and
would, you
being
have
honest is
the
good.
kitchen on the second floor, but I think it's.
Well, I don't think the
I don't-
kitchen's on the second floor now. I would imagine it's not.
But they're probably gonna propose that, right?
We are going to propose that, but if we get the building permit to do the work before all the special permits go through, it might be an option to just keep the kitchen on the first floor, and then when the permits either hopefully go through, move the kitchen upstairs.
But I think that that's something that should probably be looked at in code revision, if it's a permitted use on the property now, that they should automatically be allowed to do that. And even if they do have an application pending, because they may never follow through with that application. I mean, while you're holding them up for years on using the structure for what it's permitted to be used for.
But they could withdraw their application at that point then.
Anyway, I think it should be a code revision, that's something I would like to be discussed.
Trying to be transparent. I don't want to issue a permit and on this residence, you see that permit and you say, wait, don't we have a special permit application on that? So we're not suggesting that you need a resolution or anything. It was more bring it to your attention and why not just do it in discussion format in this way? If, you know.
I think we're all, is anybody object?
No, I don't.
No, so I think you have the support.
There would, while the architect's representative is here, there was on my application to put the ramp in, unless the resident needs the ramp herself, I would recommend not putting the ramp in until the site plan approval comes through, because if planning board doesn't like this configuration, the parking or something
Right.
like that, I don't want you to build a ramp and then go and reconfigure the ramp, so.
I agree.
What section of the code are we talking about that refers to that?
I'll have to go, I don't have it off the top of my head, I'll send you an email.
Okay, and in
What?
the rural corridor,
Have a copy of
Sorry,
it.
Jim.
Come on now.
It's with- I
In
thought the
the-
meeting was at 10, I didn't get a time to properly prepare.
Without
You have it
code,
memorized?
you don't have it memorized?
in the rural corridor, if you have an office on the first floor and you have living quarters on the second floor, does it have to be owner occupied?
Not if you do this method. We discussed when, I believe this client was looking at purchasing the property. There's a potential she could keep it as a residence and do a home office pursuant to the limits of our state code and our local code, but that's really limited. You can only use a certain portion of the finished area, a certain portion of the first floor. And we weighed the options, I think, with the architect, and they went back and she said, no, she wants to do the full. So this will become a commercial building where the first floor will be the professional office with special permit and site plan. And the upstairs, single-family, it's been interpreted, single-family is permitted in the zone so that the upstairs could be a
Well,
dwelling
encourage.
unit. It doesn't have to be owner-occupied, because it's really not a residence anymore. It's a commercial residential dwelling unit above over a commercial
So it could be
special
an
permit.
accessory apartment, if the owner decided not to live there, it could be turned into an accessory apartment, even if the office space down below is vacated.
I wouldn't call it an accessory apartment, because that's really a single-family dwelling type of accessory. It would be,
It would be the main.
A
It would-
legal apartment,
it would,
just,
it would be a rental
Apartment.
dwelling unit. If the owner wasn't occupying there, they could get a rental agreement through code enforcement. We would permit it and see a vote as such as where it's a split building. If they were side by side, it'd be the same difference, it just.
so you could potentially put an accessory apartment, or an apartment on any second floor throughout the rural corridor with commercial use on the first floor, and then have apartments all on the second floor up and down the rural corridor.
No.
Oh.
Rural corridor allows single-family dwelling as a principal use. Special permit, you can get a special permit for professional office in the rural corridor as long as it's east of 105 and on the main
Well,
road.
this is actually in the APZ.
Okay, yeah.
So in APZ,
In
you
APZ,
can
it's
have
gotta
an
be-
office on the first floor, and you can have an apartment on the second floor.
Single-family dwellings are permitted in the APZ.
Okay, but this is no longer going to be a single-family dwelling,
It will
correct?
still be a single-family dwelling because it's not multiple apartments and it's not an accessory apartment. It's only the one residence because you're allowed professional office space as an adjunct to a single-family residence there. So that's where it comes in. You can't have 3 apartments and some office space. The office space is only permitted because you have a residence.
It's not a
You have to-
typical single-family dwelling, but it's a single-family dwelling
By definition.
in a building where you have a commercial as well.
Okay, I'm just concerned about the
You
effect
could
it
not
would have
have-
all in the APZ zones,
You
where
cannot have a second
first floors turn
apartment.
into offices and second floors become an apartment or living quarters, that's all.
Yeah, you
So I'll look into it.
I mean, the code won't allow that division there.
Well, it's allowing it now,
The-
through
No.
special permit.
There's definitely
No,
an
it's not.
interpretation to be had, but
Okay.
Yes.
the permitted principal uses, and we said rural corridor, I apologize, APZ. Single-family dwellings permitted, so on this lot, you could have one single-family dwelling. In this case, it will be a dwelling unit in the form of what you're calling an apartment. I wouldn't call it apartment, but yeah.
I mean, you could only have one kitchen.
Correct.
You couldn't put multiple kitchens in there.
One dwelling unit
Understood,
on the premise.
understood,
Yeah.
but I just, in the
My God.
APZ, which is all of Sound Avenue and a lot of Main Road, I just wanna make sure that when we're making decisions on these applications to allow office space on the first floor and dwelling units on the second floor, that we see what the impact will be throughout the whole agricultural protection zone. That's all.
The only place in APZ we could have a special permit is on 25 east of 105.
Correct.
That is correct.
Okay.
So it's
So-
not widespread throughout
Yeah.
the entire APZ.
So it's not-
strictly just along the main road.
Right, because that's our, right, road corridor. That's correct.
So in the APZ zoning, it says only on 25 east of 105.
Would you just share that with everybody when
Yep.
when you get back to the office?
Yeah, I believe, we have it
I'm
in
not
this,
opposed to
but
that.
I will.
I got it.
I'll send
I'm
it
not
to you.
opposed to it either.
50 years
And
ago,
if
we
it's in
stayed
the
above
zoning
one
code that
big
allows for
tax
it, I
shop
just
with
am
a bump
concerned
up there.
about the
You know,
overall
so-
effect throughout the town, and he just clarified it by saying,
And you're not wrong, there's an interpretation, and this was, we talked about with the architect. I interpreted that you could have one single-family dwelling unit on this lot, and by special permit, you could also have the professional office.
and that would make sense if they would do that in the zoning east of 25, but if it requires an interpretation, that should also be cleaned up in the code.
Sure. We'll make a,
Interpretations sometimes get us in trouble.
Well,
in zoning
was my
code, especially
understanding that
with
this was
zoning
rural
board.
corridor, not APZ, that's why I asked you to share that when you get it.
While we're here and doing the presentation, there's just a couple of issues that I want to bring to the board with regards to the special permit. One of the items to be considered is that there's adequate buffer yards, landscaping. Now, town code requires anytime there's a commercial or business use adjoining a residential use, it requires a 10-foot vegetative buffer of evergreen screens. Along the eastern property line, there's adequate space to put this buffer. Now, there's residences on both the east and the west. There is not, I don't believe there's enough room on the western side. Through a site plan process, we're recommending that the access be widened. Right now, there's only a 24-foot setback between the western property line and the existing house. I don't think there's gonna be enough space to put a 10-foot buffer and still maintain a safe flow of traffic in and out of the site.
What
Now,
are
Move it to
the,
the other side.
what are the abutting uses
Uh,
on that side?
Residential on east and the west, and then the northern portion on page 2 of the staff report. I mean, I got the best aerial that I could see, but the northern portion, there's like a commercial greenhouse farm operation.
West side.
But you're gonna have, you know, commercial traffic.
They are
going in and
proposing
out,
a
and
6-foot,
then
they are
there's
proposing a
business
6-foot
right now. That's
stockade
a problem.
along the
I
eastern
was
and
gonna say,
western
on that,
property.
on that western side, where that driveway cuts around that adjoining property, does that cut into their
Well, so
property?
now that driveway, it actually,
There's a roadway that goes back.
it's impeding onto the
That's-
subject
That's
parcel.
what it looks like, yeah.
I think it just through years of use, it kind of worn itself,
Yeah, it looks like it.
into a little
So
road.
it looks
but-
like they're gonna need that.
I don't know, I would think to be a good neighbor, you'd want to maintain the buffer.
Mhm. I agree.
Because if you have residential on both sides, I think you need to,
Especially because you're gonna be having cars pull in and out while she has appointments throughout the day, and I agree. I think it should be, the 10-foot buffer should be maintained, so however they have to figure out how to
Well, they
get
don't
the
have
cars
that.
back there and park it is, it's not a hurdle with an
That's okay.
undersized lot like this.
They don't have the property to do it.
Well, yes, I mean, they're dealing, the western side, they've got a 24-foot setback, the eastern side, they've got a 26-foot setback. So if we require the 10-foot, we're talking about a 14-foot wide lane of traffic to have incoming and outgoing. There could be a potential. I mean, would the board be, it might have to go to the ZBA, but would you guys be okay with a smaller buffer, like a 5-foot buffer, if they could?
I think you're putting a commercial entity in a residential area. People bought their homes with, you know, knowing that this was the buffer in place.
I agree.
I think, you know,
I think that, I
You're
mean,
gonna be
if you
putting a
wanted to put
business.
a mirror on the side of the house so that if someone's leaving, they can see if there's a car coming,
Oh, that
and,
looks nice.
you know. But I think that
The
we
park,
need to,
there's probably something engineering-wise that can be done, where maybe you circle around. I mean, it doesn't look as pretty from the front, but there's probably something.
Yeah, right, it's aesthetic as well. I think you have a ZBA getting that.
but then you're telling the neighbor they're having commercial traffic next to their house.
Well, commercial, it's
really,
still becoming,
and
well,
ZBA is only
Believe
supposed to
me.
be granting
My driveway's
variances
busier than
if
this
there's
thing's
an
gonna be,
extreme
sorry to tell you.
hardship, and the fact that she bought a residential house and you put a commercial use in there, to me, wouldn't be considered an extreme hardship, so I think accommodations can be made to provide the 10-foot buffer from the adjoining residential uses.
I like the idea of a buffer.
All right. Yeah, I mean, that was really the biggest issue with the application. You know, we referred it to DOT. DOT did have comments on it. You know, Brad supplied comments, they'll need to sprinkler the building. Yeah, so the buffer was really the biggest issue. In terms of limiting the regulating hours, you know, does the town board feel that they need to regulate the hours of operation of the office?
You know, I actually thought this was in rural Florida, so I haven't looked
Yeah.
through the APZ, what the regulations are in there, so it's really hard to comment
Yeah,
on those things at this
There's no
point.
provision in the code, I know there are in, I believe in rural corridor, there
There's
are
definitely more.
limiting hours of operation.
I wouldn't wanna be less restrictive.
Alright,
Right. And I think they could also move the driveway to the other side of the house if the buffer became a problem.
And what?
or even we, you know, we could do, this might be in and then have traffic circle out to, you know, we can work with
You're
the
gonna have
applicant
buses
to
with people coming in,
design
aren't you?
something.
I hope not. Okay. Just checking.
Because we want the buffer, but we also don't want to be in a situation where someone's coming off of 25 at relatively higher speed, they go to turn in here and someone's coming on the way out and you have a, so we'll have to take a look at that, and I'm sure the planning board will have comments for that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Might have to-
and, you know, you can't fit a square
Might
peg
have
in a
to-
round hole either,
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Have the driveways on both sides.
you know.
Let's put a loop to loop in it.
It might have to loop around it, which is why I said let's not do
Yeah.
the ramp into
Right.
it. But we talked about, it's been said in the past, like, there's multiple ages, so we might need the ZBA, we definitely need the town board, and we definitely need the planning board. With this, under SECR, as being a type 2 action, there's no lead agency, there's really no requirement for coordination, but this is an example of how to come and get your opinion on that, so that we don't steer the applicant to go look for that from the ZBA if you're not gonna be, or make it a
Right, well-
condition of your special permit.
What I would like to see is all the relief that would be necessary in order to accomplish the uses that they're proposing, whether or not they need zoning board, if they need site plan, if they need, what the variances might be that they're looking for, before it comes to me for a special permit.
Right.
Well, this is part of the tri-board, meeting that we're having, is to kind of come up to figure out how this flow works. So that's not burdensome on somebody wanting to develop something, and they can get an answer that goes in steps for them to be able to move forward.
Again, this is a little atypical because normally we'd give you more time to review that, have questions, and then decide if we want to bring it on to discuss about scheduling the public hearing. In this case, the request is really, and why we're on for discussion this morning, the request is can they do the residential work, which I think the board was okay with. We're gonna go back to the drawing board with the plan. It can come for special permit if there's any variances that need to be required. But I think we'll have to come
But
back
that's
and,
why I think it's very wise to do the tri-board meeting also, because a lot of times when they've already gone through the exercise and the expense of going to the zoning board of appeals and hiring an attorney, and the zoning board of appeals gives them every variance that they need, and then they come to the town board for a special permit, and we say, how do we deny it when they already got all these variances? I think it should have come to the town board first, and we were trying to have a few meetings on that and could never agree. So I think it's wise to do the tri-board meeting and figure out which step comes first before you spend a lot of the applicant's money to, or force the town board into a position where they have to approve a special
Well,
permit
the
because
applicant's
of.
gonna
I don't think
pick
we're
the
ever
poison,
forced
that's
into
all.
anything, it just makes it a little bit more challenging. If-
Exactly.
After somebody's laid out a lot of money, it's not good for
So-
business in
Right.
town.
well, the
Agreed.
building department's
Yeah,
okay
release
to, sorry, Jim, the building department's okay to release the residential building permit. We'll rework the plan with the architect and the client, and then we'll come back, we'll schedule another town board work session when we're ready to, or we think it's ready to schedule a public hearing.
Okay,
Fine with me.
sounds good.
Yeah,
Thank
the
you.
only thing
Thank you.
Before building issues the permits, because there is the pending site plan, I would say we should refer it to the ARB, just to make sure that they're okay with the changes to the building, if they have any recommendations, being that we've kind of got the site plan, you know, running concurrently with it, I think they'll just
And I
cover our
think it
bases.
should also say something on the building permit to the effect that, you know, if the site plan is not approved, that it would only be a single-family dwelling. And,
The building permit is not going to change the CO for the building. It's gonna remain a single-family dwelling. It's not gonna let them put a second kitchen upstairs and keep the one down. That's not gonna happen.
okay,
And that's not what they're representing in their building permit application. Really,
Okay.
there's a dormer involved because this Cape house, it doesn't, the second story, you don't have as much floor, square footage as you like, so it's dormered on one side.
Okay.
This plan kind of mirrors the dormer on the other side, and so the upstairs is more of a full upstairs.
I agree, and if you wanted to send those plans over to the building department for the architectural review board, they can start circulating those plans by email.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Really easy word.
Good morning, council
Good
members.
morning.
Good morning, how you doing today? Live on 25.
I don't see
Councilman?
that on the thing here.
It's not.
Oh, is that the
It's being
289?
added. Diane Tucci from
And you wanna come up?
Midway is here. Councilwoman, it's your
Thank you.
copy.
This is not on the resolution?
No, this is just coming up right now.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
So as you know, we have been undertaking the annual Live on 25 Street Festival for the last several years. Diane provided the proposed dates for this year's session, so we wanted to get that to you as quickly as possible. And it's my understanding, Diane, we will abide by the same terms and conditions as last year, correct?
Yes,
There's no
absolutely.
change?
No change.
Okay, so I just want to make that known to the board
Except
again.
we have 2 subsequent weeks.
Yes.
That's correct.
We have little odd dates this year. We have to work around Patch Dogs Alive After 5 because we, you
Yeah.
know, created the event with them, so they have to work around 4th of July in their village this year, so it kind of left us working with some odd dates this year, so we are gonna do it 2 weeks in a row. I'm gonna put that in a separate application. Okay, we'd like to do our annual fireworks with the first Alive on 25 too.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Hold
so,
on.
I will be, you know, putting in a separate application for that, but, so, everybody is in support of that, all the businesses that
night.
I've talked to, and, you know, police and security, everyone feels it's a great idea, so we'll just work on logistics for it. Should be a lot of people downtown that night.
Very exciting.
So,
She's very happy about that.
Chief is happy? Chief is happy, then I'm happy, so, because it's really on them that night and our security, so.
Yep, it gets better every year,
Yeah.
you're doing a great job.
Thank you so much.
And
So
Chief
this
is
is-
doing a
there's
great
no-
job
there's
too,
no
as
changes
far
on
as
this?
moving the
Correct,
traffic
other
along.
than the dates.
They've been
I'd like to
phenomenal.
just put in new
Yeah.
dates,
It
all
worked
same
well last
terms
year,
and
so I don't
conditions
know.
regarding tip requirements and alcohol service. And insurance requirements, again, 1 million per occurrence, 2 million aggregate
Last
for
week.
each of the vendors plus a rider on the alcohol.
Okay.
With
No,
all
it's
proper
extremely-
endorsements.
Proper endorsements including primary non-contributory.
That's right,
Okay.
and well versed.
All those big words.
Sounds good.
We are, just a note on the event, we are gonna work a little bit more with the downtown business this year. We've been closing the streets at like 2 o'clock the past 2 years, but we found that was a little bit early, so we're gonna close the streets at 3:30 this year.
Good,
So
move
it'll
it a
be-
little west.
Yeah,
Good, move it down. Union, not Ostrander. Well, that's wrong. I'm
Pray
gonna
for
move-
no
I'm
thunderstorms.
I'm gonna go out there and move it myself if it's not moved this year. I lose it.
All right, it's very exciting, so any support that we can provide or participate in?
no, everyone's been so supportive so far, and really, I appreciate it. It's been great working with everybody. I mean, I think the event's been super, well.
A lot of fun.
We get a lot of compliments on how well organized it is, and I think it's, because we're all working together on it. So, we do have some operations committee meetings, so, if you have concerns about the way the street is shut down, maybe we could invite you to
Yeah,
one of
I did,
those
I
meetings.
mentioned it to everybody and everybody said, yeah, we'll take care of it and never did,
Yeah.
so.
Because we try to get as much feedback as we can from
I just
everybody,
think
so.
deferring traffic at Ostrander is just, when there's nothing going on prior to west of Union, it's a whole block there that is stagnant.
Right.
And there's people stationary and the funeral home and the gas station that might as well block the door,
We should definitely work to make sure that, we can work with them.
Yeah, so that we're not cutting people off before they're, cutting out some of their business, so.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll
that has
go
to be a
around the block and
conversation.
come up Union anyway, so it's kinda, they
Yeah,
get
and
you in.
Ostrander is a straight road from 58 or from anywhere really, north of Main Street. So it's a good road to bring people down if they wanted to go east on Main Street or visit some of the businesses east of where Live on 25 is. I think it's a good suggestion
We'll look at
too.
it, it's easy, I'll teach the chief about basic traffic flow.
I know you have an animal. One of the questions I had
But
got from
that's the
people
reason
was
Ostrander
for,
is used, I'm
senior
sure,
parking
because it is a
or
straight
handicap
run
parking
through,
during the events, to
Union
make
and
it a little
Maple
bit,
and
publish it a little
Right.
bit more,
We
or
could
put
do
some
that.
signs up for this.
Oh, yeah, no, it's
This
not.
is from the senior parking
No, they
for
block-
events
Mm-hmm.
and handicap
They
parking
block
for the
Main
events,
Street
to just make it, maybe
Yeah.
make it a little bit
Yeah.
clearer so that
Block
people
it at Union.
can access it, or even if they're coming down one of the roads, that they know that this is the handicap area over here.
And we could put that on the website too,
Okay.
so I can, you know, make sure that we try and designate that
You know,
area.
yeah, just have it be a little bit more
Mhm.
advertised, a little bit more visual for people to see.
Yeah, again, you know, the more feedback and communication I get, the more I'm, you know, I run the website, I run the social media, I can respond to the, you know, this feedback by putting it out there, so if people are looking for certain things, you know, I certainly wanna hear about it, I'm here to work for the businesses downtown, so.
Fantastic.
Okay,
Alrighty, thank
any
you.
other questions?
No?
No,
All
I
right.
can't wait, I can't
All right, great,
wait.
thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, yeah, just see if he's back. I'm gonna start on the resolutions just for time. We have the code enforcement, the 289 changes. Eric is in
They came in.
court, but hopefully he will be here before we get, or he can address that one afterwards, okay? So the first resolution, we got everything else on there, right? Is Old Orchard at Baiting Hollow Water Capital Project, number 30131, budget adjustment. Resolution 2 is authorize town clerk to post and publish the attached notice for bidders for the annual construction contract. That's the notice. Authorizes town clerk to post and publish the attached notification to bidders for the annual procurement contract. Ratifies the approval of leave of absence for military reasons for a police department employee. We have discussed this. Ratifies the appointment of an intern to the police department. This is, yeah, okay. Amend resolution number 3. This was just an incorrect salary that was placed in when we did the salaries for the January 1st meeting. There had been a change in mid-year that wasn't from a higher date, so it was corrected on here. Is this the correct number on?
Yeah.
Okay. Accepts the retirement of a clerk typist. This is
So,
a,
back to the last one.
Yeah.
So that salary is increasing or decreasing?
that, it's supposed to be listed on here, but that is an increase, because I think it was at 85 something, but what happened was, because of his hire date was like in April, so he got hired in January or April, and so the previous salary didn't have the increase for the next year.
So it's budgeted for this salary?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Oh, good for Mike, good there.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure.
It was just a, like I said, happened in mid-year, so it didn't pick up the change
You
in
were
the
calling
salary.
that other guy anyway.
This is for the retirement of a clerk typist. This is Pamela Cartwright. Appoints budget adjustment officer to the supervisor. This will be to fill Jill's position.
Budget, is that what you call them now?
Yes.
So when will he when is his contract in here? Yes. And his pay and
Yep.
all of that
Yep.
is in the subsequent resolution?
It will be in the contract, and it can be added to this.
Right,
It should
it's
be,
the next-
it should be on this
It's
also.
the next resolution.
Laura?
Yeah.
Would you just clarify under vacations, I just wanted to make sure, because I had to make a couple of changes. Is that correct? Or should that be February 20? Because this is,
It should be, say, prorated in here.
okay. But that reads correct?
Well, because, yeah, moving forward,
Okay. All right, I just wanted to make doubly sure.
Different
We
titles.
didn't change it because we haven't adopted yet, so if we need to change it.
yeah, it should be prorated
Okay.
to start date, prorated to the start date. I think it's somewhere in there.
Okay.
The salary, I don't see the salary, but I also see that the town shall pay on Carol's behalf 85% of the cost of either the individual or family coverage under the town's health insurance program.
That's 15%, the same as with the other employees that I have here.
Well, okay, but
He pays
Jill
15%.
and our town board coordinator and most appointeds pay 25%, so.
The way it was worked in the office, coming out of my office on the budget, was the people that paid 25% did not take the insurance, and anybody that did take the insurance the town covered 100%. Larry Levy was covered for 100% on his insurance, and he took the full plan, whereas Jill does not, and that's where the difference came in. So evened out, the 15% equals the same.
Right,
It's
but
actually less. I think, where's Bill? I think it turns out to be almost, I don't have my numbers in front of me, but with the 15%, I think the whole line item is a couple 20,000 less than the previous administrations.
Okay, because I believe the budgeted salaries for the supervisor's office prior to,
I'm coming in quite a lot
he was
less.
at 350, you were at 317, somewhere around there, and then, so you're saying that the salary and
Do
the
you have the numbers,
benefits-
Bill?
I'm looking for them.
My only question is, I guess this 62,000 is a prorated for the year? Is that what it is?
Yes, correct,
So what's the-
everything will
what's
be
the actual-
prorated.
What's the actual annual salary?
62. And then it will be prorated for the time they're not there,
62 is the salary. He won't make 62 because he's starting
later.
a month
Oh.
later.
It says 62 from February 20th through December 31st, so there's 6 weeks that he's not.
That's the following annual salary, but we can, right before that.
All right, we'll clear up the language in this and then send it
Oh,
back
'cause
out.
that looks like you're getting that for that time.
No, it's 62,000 for the, per annum,
Okay.
and that it will be prorated as of the start date for
Okay,
February
that-
20th.
It just wasn't clear on the
Yeah.
wages. so, okay.
And the same will happen with vacation time.
The last page, it says, it looks like you're getting that for that block of time.
No, it's per annum,
Okay.
and it will be prorated for the
Okay.
time.
Good with me.
This isn't the new one, though, this is old, this is current staff.
Okay.
Yeah, if you could just
Because
do the
ours,
same
my,
spreadsheet.
in the office, we are down at like,
Okay, I'll look at it. and-
yeah, it's about 26,000 less than, for health insurance than it was.
Okay, Bill, if you could just give me the same spreadsheet that I asked for last time in the hiring of the new people that were coming into the supervisor's office, so I can do the comparison of what the budget was proposed for 2018 for the supervisor's staff and what it will be in 2018 for the new supervisor's staff. Thank you.
And the second one is setting the terms and conditions of the employment for Brian Carroll, Town Budget Officer, to the supervisor. That will be cleaned up and resent out if anybody has comments on it.
Yep.
Terminates the employment of duty, the Deputy Town Supervisor. This will be effective on the 20th.
Bye, Jill.
That will be Jill, we
Have
will
a
miss
great
her,
day.
wish her the best of luck.
Love you.
Appoints a building permit examiner, number 11. 12 is, assumes lead agency for amendment to the local law, chapter 301, zoning and land development, commercial solar energy production systems, and issues a negative declaration pursuant to SECRA. This is the,
When did we interview for building permits examiner?
That's Sue Edwards.
yeah, that's somebody that we had discussed who is an account clerk typist now, in the building department, who took the
Just
test.
validated.
Right,
Okay,
it just,
all right,
yes.
okay,
Right, because
Okay.
there might be a retirement in there, so moving
Okay,
everybody
no, I
up
get
to
it,
the
okay, I
Yeah.
thought it was, I
permit
thought it was.
examiner
new.
title, they can do more work under
Okay,
that
sorry.
title rather than account clerk typist.
I guess I should pay them more attention.
So the next one is assuming of the lead agency. 13 is adopt a local law to amend chapter 301 of the Riverhead Town Code entitled Zoning and Land Development, Article L2, Commercial Solar Energy Production Systems of the Riverhead Town Code. This is an adjustment that, they were looking for greater buffers, for solar going in, between panels and next to residential homes. So I think, it was something that was asked for from the planning
Make it more
board.
special.
Actually, it was something that we had,
Instead of
that I
as
had
of
brought
right.
up to the planning director and to the building department, saying that it's very difficult to calculate what the impervious surface is and what the area of solar panels is, trying to figure out what the grass area is in between panels. So the area of the solar should be around the perimeter of the solar system rather than in between panels and trying to figure that out. So
Okay, all right. So I think, increases the buffer zone, which I think is
That was
good.
also something that was discussed, yes.
Authorize to publish advertisement for an auto and truck repair 2018 to 19 for the town of Riverhead. Authorize to publish advertisement for automotive parts 2018, the year 2018 to 19 for the town of Riverhead.
Ford part.
Authorized to publish advertisement for bid for Ford automotive replacement parts for the town of Riverhead. Extend bid contract non-pro-tunc for the fertilizer and lawn chemicals. I'm not saying that one again, I hate that one.
Now for
awards bid for fertilizers
Oh,
and lawn chemicals?
That's just the attachment with it, she just was referencing last year's.
Oh, okay, is that what it is?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's all.
sorry.
That's all right.
Authorized to publish advertisement for work clothes for the town of Riverhead.
Do that. Yeah, people out there naked.
I'm just going to, well, I can take this one in order, this is the CDA resolution. This is a resolution calling for a public hearing of the Community Development Agency's designation of Calverton Aviation and Technology LLC, a joint venture to be formed by Illuminati Aerospace LLC and 555 Real Estate One LLC as a qualified and eligible sponsor for the purchase and development of approximately 1,643 plus acres located within the premises known as the Enterprise Park at Calverton, EPCAL, consistent with the goals and objectives of the Planned Development's PD Zone District adopted on August 16, 2016, the Town of Riverhead Comprehensive Master Plan as amended on August 2nd, 2016, and the Town of Riverhead Calverton Enterprise Park Urban Renewal Plan as amended on August 2nd of 2016. So this is calling for the public hearing to take place on February 27th at
Special town board meeting.
at 7 PM at a special town board meeting, so we will just address this issue at that town board meeting.
So,
Maybe. Very
who,
good, thank you. So
who
moved.
prepared this resolution?
This was prepared out of my office in conjunction with the town attorneys.
Okay, so have,
Frank Eisner.
so our
Sorry, Frank
outside
Eisner.
counsel.
Outside
Okay.
counsel, the counsel that we have for the case.
Okay, so in the caption, it refers to designation of Calverton Aviation and Technology LLC, a joint venture to be formed by Illuminati Aerospace and 555 Real Estate. So, and then in the following, it just refers to Calverton Aviation and Technology LLC. I just want to make sure that we're consistent with what the contract says and that we're not doing anything or labeling it as anything
This is
that's.
not consistent with what the contract says. And
Well,
we-
that's
we-
why
we
I
have-
am
we-
questioning it.
Yes, we have questioned it also, and this is what we were told how it should be written.
Well, then, we should probably discuss it with our
Are you
attorney.
talking about the
and have a
verbiage in the
special meeting.
resolution or the verbiage in actual calling for the hearing?
I'm talking about, it's a very sensitive matter and
Well,
going
look at the
forth with the
public
qualified
notice.
and eligible hearing, that we wanna make sure that the terminology in here is
Well, I want-
the same as what's in the
Well, look at the
contract.
public notice, and I think that would be under more scrutiny than our resolution typing. So,
The public notice should be the same.
I agree.
well, I'm
So-
not sure it is. Is it?
Yeah, the public notice should be the same.
But I
don't disagree with you, Jody. We brought this up many times, and I think that we can address it at the qualified and eligible, because I think it is an inconsistency.
Me
And I
too.
think it does warrant a lot of questions.
I know, but I'm concerned about adopting that resolution, that it might perceive to be something other than what the contract says.
We can, if you like, we can ask the town attorneys to come before Tuesday.
Well, maybe we can just ask them for a legal memorandum as to why there is the inconsistency and how that protects the town.
Yes, we can, we'll do that.
Okay.
20, order establishing an extension to Riverhead Sewer District to serve 780 Old Country Road.
This is what we had the public hearing on.
Yep. Right. This is public hearing for the other day. Appoint representative to the Peconic Bay Regional Community Preservation Fund Advisory Opinion Bureau. This is, Anne Marie had been part of this and she is just being reappointed. Authorize renewal of a license agreement. This is the DJ for the senior center.
No, that's not. This is the pre-recorded.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is the pre-recorded, yeah.
The BMI stuff, whatever?
This is, yeah, because if you use music on any of the,
it's
any
all
of the things.
copyright laws,
Yeah,
yep.
exactly.
Going back to the,
Couple of them we have to do.
back to resolution number 20 with the order establishing extension to Riverhead Sewer District to serve 780 Old Country Road. I don't see in this resolution where it says that this property will be now included in it
Sewer
says,
district.
it hereby approves the extension of the Riverhead Sewer District to accommodate sewer connection. It should also say to include this parcel in the sewer district so that they pay the associated taxes as every other parcel does. I don't see where it says that it's extending the boundary of the sewer district to include this property, and I think that should be in the resolution.
Okay, well, make sure it's in there. If it's not, I have to look over it again, but if it's not in there, we'll check with the attorneys to make sure it's in there.
See, Jim, your sewer taxes just went down.
They doubled for the church.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post a public notice for a local law to consider amendments to chapter 225 entitled Parades, Assemblies, and Special Events of the Riverhead Town Code. This is a change because what happens a lot of times is people will submit their events, but they do not have their insurance with the events. So in the event that they do not have their insurance, then there'll be an extra fee to make sure that they have the insurance prior to that, otherwise the event will not be allowed to take place. So they have 30 days, it has to be in there 30 days before. Offer support to New York State legislation to amend Chapter 399 of the local laws of 2008 relating to giving the Riverhead Town Board discretion to change speed limits. This is a home rule that's been brought up to Albany many times.
40 years.
Yeah, still trying.
Still trying.
How's that? Offer support to New York State legislation to amend the general municipal law in relation to the creation of Peconic Bay Regional Transportation Council. This is also something going up to Albany to be able to form a council down here with the 5 East End towns to address transportation. Ratifies the appointment of an interpreter for police department and justice court. This was a situation when we had nobody that could interpret the language, so we used an outside consultant.
Hold up.
Authorize the supervisor to execute the application agreement with the County of Suffolk for 2008 funding for JAB and youth counseling programs.
Jab.
How else do they say it? Juvenile aid?
They say JAB.
Oh,
I've never heard it
JAB?
called
All right, I'm going
I
jab.
sort of like that,
You know
jab.
why I said that? Because there's that, the health
sort-
place, so I'm thinking jabs.
I sort of like that jab. I go over the jab.
So this is, we're applying for it, and hopefully that we'll receive, that we have received it in the past. Authorize town clerk to publish and post a public notice to consider local law to amend chapter 101 entitled General Provisions for Riverhead Town Code. This is the fiscal impact statement.
What number are you on?
I think you skipped one there.
Did I?
28, has to do with traffic.
20,
Do you want to read it off? I don't know.
28 is-
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to amend chapter 289 entitled Vehicles, Traffic, and Parking Regulations, part 1 thereof entitled Vehicle and Traffic of the Town Code.
This is the one that Eric's supposed to come in and talk to us about, the Jeep. Okay.
Do you guys want to just come up and explain this?
Yeah, it looks like we're deleting and rewriting everything.
Well, there was
It's a fine
We
set.
had
The background behind this is that I think last year, you guys had changed the fee for parking summons. And then there was a couple little glitches with that it was not able to be implemented as was intended.
Because it was in conflict with the codes?
There was just a few issues with it as far as what the fee was, the way the tickets were, the way the zoning, the code was written. So we just did some cleanup on it, and this is what we've come up with. So I'll let you guys present as to how one of the things on here is a change of fee. I think it was originally 100, you guys went down to 40, we're at 50 on here, but I will let you explain. One of the other things was, one of the questions was whether it's actually having it being implemented, because there was some wording with traffic infractions and then parking summaries, so,
That's not,
I don't know.
what we were just handed is the thing Bill talked
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay.
Oh, you guys don't have it? Okay, because I just handed it.
I have it on, I have it on the screen.
That's what I
It's on the
Okay.
computer, yeah.
Yeah.
Did, since our meeting on this,
Proceed.
did Chief have a chance to go and look and see the inventory of the ticket books that he has with the incorrect dollar amounts on it? Because we're gonna be throwing all those away and ordering new books, so I thought we were gonna get those numbers first.
We can get them to you.
Okay.
Doesn't
And what the
matter,
cost
they
is.
still have to
Or just get
withdraw.
somebody to write a hell of a lot of
I know,
tickets so we
but-
get the new books.
Right,
you know?
they're not valid now, how's that?
I know,
Yeah,
but
they gotta
when it
go in the
comes.
garbage.
But
I
Jody,
know.
they're not
Doesn't
valid
matter.
now.
If we have 1,000, if
Understood.
we have 20, it doesn't matter, throw them out.
Okay,
Move on and order the new
can I
ticket
just
book.
finish what I'm saying?
Go ahead.
Okay, so what I was saying is that because dollar amounts on tickets change, maybe we shouldn't have the dollar amounts actually printed on the tickets. And it should be by resolution, and when they write the tickets, they should refer to the section of the town code as to what the dollar amount is, or write the dollar amount on the ticket. Because printing 1,000 books of tickets at $40 a ticket, and then we change it a year later, or the businesses come to us a year later and say $50 a ticket is too much, lower it down to 35, and then you're throwing away the books again. So that's something that I brought up in the meeting, that was a concern of mine. I know the old books have to get thrown away, but going forward, do we wanna print the dollar amounts on 1,000 book of tickets when those dollar amounts could change again within the next 10 years, and we're not through
I
the
do.
1,000 books of tickets?
I do.
Yeah, I think the public receiving the ticket should have right
I
on
think,
there
I
what the
think
fines
the
are,
cost
so
of
they
the
know
books
what it is.
I thought it would refer to town code, and then the officer would write the amount of the ticket.
I think just people writing on the tickets, you could misinterpret what it says. I think
don't
that's
like
my
that,
only
having
thing.
it, nope, I'd rather just, people that get the ticket know exactly what they.
You're prosecuting, what do you think?
Don't
I think
print
it's better to
a million
have
of 'em.
it printed
Well,
right
that's
on
what
the
I'm
ticket,
saying.
then they can't
But
say.
All right, one
They-
conversation, one conversation. Let's,
They clearly have notice of what the fine is,
okay.
okay, and they clearly have notice of what the fine goes up to if they don't pay it after 30 days, after 60 days, and so forth.
Yep.
And that, I mean, that being said, I believe the chief is going to have, you know, a new ticket form for everyone to look at before we pull the
Portable.
trigger on it, so,
Okay.
you know, I think that's a little bit down the road. We need to get the public hearing for this done first, and then it can be adopted, and then we'll, you know, start looking at.
So
tickets.
we're going to adopt a code with new dollar amounts, but our tickets are still gonna have the old dollar amounts on
This,
it.
this,
Our tickets-
what, you got,
I'm sorry, I don't wanna interrupt. but
Yeah.
The tickets right now are going to be okay until we have this done. There's a form that I created for police officers and TCOs to fill out, to file with the court until we get this done. It's like a temporary patch for it, that they sign.
The
and
better
it results-
affirmation
yeah,
for the ticket.
And it
It's
results in either
basically like a
sufficient
supporting
sufficiency.
deposition
Right.
for
Yeah.
VTL, and what has been done is in conjunction with an unrelated Southhold case that has really nothing to do with the clarification of the fine structure here.
Okay, but all I'm saying is that once we, and this is going out for a public hearing, but once we finally do adopt it, we should have the new ticket books, yes?
Yes.
Okay,
With the
so,
new format.
so when will we see that draft? Because part of the
well,
problem
let's
was.
do the public hearing first, make sure the public is, let's see what the public comments are on this first. Once we get the public comments, then we can make a decision if this is what we wanna move forward with. If that is the point that we will be moving forward with these new fines and this fee schedule, at that point, we will have, you know, answers to your question, how much it costs to print a ticket book, and then we can decide whether we wanna order, you know, 500 tickets or 1,000 tickets. If we feel that we're gonna be changing this in 2 years, then we'll, you know, we know how many tickets we write out, we can order accordingly,
Okay,
so.
So really, you know, I mean, Eric is really kind of the principal one who did this work, but basically we're taking 289, section 289-29, and we're just going to lay out in, I think, more clear fashion what each and every violation under that chapter, the fine structure, so there's no more confusion.
that makes sense.
It seems like in the past, there's always been a confusion between which subsection A or subsection B was the ticket being written under. Was it a $100 fine, was it a $35 fine, $40 fine, whatever it is. By laying it out and clarifying each particular section, it gets rid of the argument. I think it's a lot easier to deal with and address in the public.
I wrote these tickets 20 years ago, and the prices don't look like they're all that much higher now than they were then.
No.
Well, I
I
think
think
part
they're
of
35
the,
back then, probably.
Yeah.
part of the reasoning is, you know, you guys had made that decision, a couple months ago to do.
Well, we don't wanna hammer the people.
Right, so I think that this was made out with the same thought in mind.
Right,
Well, it's
there's
not
a
only
better
hammering,
chance
but
that they pay this ticket.
People more apt to pay a $50 fine,
Right.
and more apt to fight a $100
Then pay, right, correct.
and then you settle for $50 anyway.
It's a nuisance value.
Yeah, and
With the
hopefully
pop-
we'll put online,
I was
they'll be
just-
able to pay online also, so it won't just be mail-in, so the likelihood that we'll collect in a timely fashion will be greater.
The other change is under the current structure, if you're late by 30 days, it bumps up. If you're late by 60 days, it bumps up. If you're late by 90 days, it bumps up. In this instance, it's a 30-60,
30 and 60.
that's all, okay?
And that'll be.
But it's a
on
little
the
bit
ticket
more
also,
steep,
Right?
Right.
Yes.
okay?
Sounds good. All right, any other questions?
Love it.
Alrighty,
Great job, Eric.
thank you very much, appreciate the work.
And
Well, no, we're talking about, no, their presentation. Hello.
Okay.
I know that we're going to break, at this point, so that people, can attend the memorial service. But I'm not quite sure, do I break? I think that's all I
Just a couple
have.
of
I think
resolutions.
there were a few more.
There's just one more
Just the
resolution.
one
What's
for
the other?
H2M.
It awards the bid for the water mains and purposes.
And there were, then there was,
Number 29. Want me to read it?
Yeah, please.
Awards bid installation of water mains and appurtenances, water distribution system improvements, items LSA and LSB Riverhead Water District.
So moved.
This was the bid, it went out to bid and,
Came in $99,000,
Right.
yeah, okay.
So moved. The two parts.
Right,
Did we have
Peconic Bay
Yes.
and Pier End,
Yeah.
okay.
did we do these?
There's
Might have
probably
done
signing
them,
in.
but I don't know.
Now you tell me.
oh yeah, we had,
What are you doing now?
The one is an award of bid.
the one
Okay,
was,
the other one is the general fund budget adjustments. The next one is awards RFP for audit services for the Community Preservation Fund for the town of Riverhead. These are not the same as the general audit. The CPF fund has to be done separately as well as the Justice Court.
Correct.
General provision one we did already. Do you guys have anything else in there that I don't? Is that everything, Diane, then?
That's all I have, I don't know.
Well, that's, yeah.
that's all I had.
Okay.
Oh, you want everything?
I do,
Um,
I'm kind of nervy.
Yeah, so,
What's all for exec? Any-
okay, so can I have a first and second to close the open session?
So moved.
And just,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
And just for notification, we will come back afterwards, we'll open the public meeting again, in which we don't intend to take up any business, and to go into executive session, for several items, which would be a public safety dispatch position, and litigation at 200 Meeting House Creek Lane enforcement action.
Oh, you guys, you're still picking on her?